In the webinar that you are about to watch, myself and the BombBomb COO, Nicole Crane, really discuss the whole concept of rebranding. Why is it important? When should you consider it? And what are some steps that you could take in order to work through that? Now, we also have a very exciting announcement about the rebrand of BombBomb specifically, but we wanted to make that tactical for you so you can understand what questions can I ask myself to make sure that my business is headed in the right direction. Take a look and enjoy. Well, good morning. Good morning. I see the numbers already popping in. I'm always impressed with the people that are the first ones, like they're ready for it. As soon as I click start webinar, they're like on time. I used to be very, very punctual, and then I had children. And that has really thrown my game off a little bit. Trying to get 2 3-year-olds dressed and out the door, especially in winter in Colorado, I won't go down that rabbit hole. But welcome, everybody. I'm super excited that you were here. We have some very, very special guests, some new faces that most of you have probably never seen. So I'm really, really excited about that, and even more excited to cover today's topic. So let's go through some of the housekeeping things while everybody is continuing to jump in here. I already see we've got some chatters in. We've got Tim. Tim's here representing the BombBomb family. So if you are here, go ahead and hop in the chat. Most of us are familiar with Zoom at this point. Start throwing in some stuff there. Let us know where you're joining us from. It's always fun to hear kind of where, because we have people from all over the world that are joining us here at BombBomb. I don't remember how many countries, but it was a lot. It's in like the 43 countries around the world have BombBomb users. So that, we can have people from all over. So it's so good to see you here. Thank you all for joining us. Please use that chat. Part of these webinars, these deep dives is for us to impart knowledge, but also for you to learn from each other in a lot of ways. Whether you are a BombBomb member, whether you're not, whether you don't even know what we're talking about today, it doesn't matter. We all have value to add. So please use the chat for that kind of content. We love the community that we've built around that. The other one, housekeeping wise, that I want to throw your way is the Q&A. Not everybody's as familiar with that. Obviously, we know what it stands for with question and answer, but I have the amazing Kelsey Weatherford, who is one of our tier 2 customer support reps here. And she knows as much about BombBomb as anybody here. She has been in the weeds helping you guys out for years and years and years. So she's going to be here helping kind of keep an eye on the Q&A stuff. The difference that I like to talk about with people is chat is for really good conversations, stuff within each other, creating, interesting answers to things you've seen other people ask. If you have a question that you do not want us to miss here on the panel, please throw that in Q&A. The chat gets going a little crazy as we get more and more people in here, and I don't want to miss those things. So please feel free to throw those in Q&A because we don't want to miss them. So that's kind of the difference there. The other housekeeping that I always have to recommend and tell people out is, yes, we are recording this webinar. I will try to say it multiple times throughout. We always have people that jump in a little bit later. But yes, we are recording this, and you will always get it emailed to you within the next handful of days here. If you don't see the email, if you missed that for any reason, bombbomb.com/webinar is where we upload all of our webinars. Now, you're going to hear about some big changes that are going on in our world, so be a little patient with us this week. It may take a little longer than normal to get that uploaded, but I promise it will be there eventually. So without further ado, I think that's the main housekeeping stuff. I am so thrilled to introduce somebody to all of you that I don't think most of you have met. Nicole Crane is our COO here at BombBomb. I know in the invite I said we're going to have a surprise executive guest. That is Nicole. Nicole's been with BombBomb for a year now. Is that right?
In 2 weeks, it'll be a year.
Oh my gosh, that seems insane. But holy cow, it's been a year that you've got to jump in. And she has been integral to a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today with the rebranding and some of those conversations. So I thought, what better opportunity to allow you to meet somebody who is really the heart of BombBomb here, but also who has a ton of knowledge and a ton of expertise walking through some of the things we're going to talk about. So Nicole, welcome. Why don't you introduce yourself? Give us a little context into where you come from.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Just to add, I am outside of Denver, so I'm in Colorado as well. I've lived here about 7 years. I'm a transplant from the Bay Area, so I know that's kind of frowned upon in Colorado recently. But in any event, I spent my entire career in startups and scaling companies that are in the tech space of some sort, whether it's digital advertising all the way through to SaaS. So certainly have done the rounds there in lots of different industries, and came to BombBomb, as Kevin said, a year ago to help grow the company and take it into sort of the next chapter, if you will. So super excited to be here and happy to answer the questions later on.
Well, and I'm so excited. Nicole, I've gotten to know you a decent amount over this last year, and man, you walked into some challenges and some things that you've been through before, I'm sure, but we're all very new for us. So I can tell you all that her expertise has been instrumental in keeping us moving forward and keeping us moving in the right direction. And we're really excited to share, some of those changes with you all today. So let me go ahead and share my screen here, and we're going to jump into this. While I'm doing that, I do want to launch a poll because I think it's always fun to do this, and I haven't done it in the last few months. So we're talking a lot about embracing change, refining your brand. I'm really curious what you all think about when you hear the word brand. So I'm going to launch this right now. Feel free to take a look at some of these answers and let me know what your thoughts are and what stands out to you specifically. Do you think of a logo? Is that what comes to mind when you think of the word brand? Do you think of specific colors? Maybe it's the value that a company holds. Maybe it's, the way that they treat you and the way that they interact with their clients. Heck, maybe you've never even really spent 5 seconds thinking about this, right? What's interesting is people make a lot of money thinking about this and planning these things for other companies. So we've already got almost 50% of you that have thrown in. So I'll give it about 10, 15 more seconds there to let you guys hop in. And then once we get this answer, we're going to jump into the agenda and some of those sort of things. So I'll give you about 5 more seconds. We've got about 60%. Get them in, get them in. I'm going to end it, and then I'll share it with you. And we're done. So here, let me share the results so you guys can see the answers here. Logo, far and away a big one. That is one that a lot of people see, but I love where so many of you went with the value of the company. When you think of a brand, when we think of a brand that we trust and we lean into and we go back to time and time again, it's not necessarily because of their logo, it's because of who they are and the values that they represent. And we are going to talk a lot about that as we go through this today. So here's kind of the agenda that we're going to cover. And you know me, I never like to sit and dilly-dally at the beginning. So we're going to jump right into this. We're going to kind of define, give a baseline of what is a brand, what is the idea of a rebrand, because I do think there's a kind of some trigger terms in there. We're going to have a great discussion with Nicole, who you've already met. We're going to talk about something exciting that some of you may have noticed already today, depending on if you've been in the app or not. But we have been going through a rebrand ourselves. And so we're really excited to share some of that. You guys are some of the first people to see it because this just went live. Nicole, you said you're up to midnight last night, helping support and help encourage the people that are doing this. And then we want to drive it back towards you all and talk about how do you approach a rebrand for you as a small business? How do you start thinking about this? And it will give you a hint. It's not all about new logos and new colors. It really goes back to what you guys talked about in this poll here of it's the value of the company. It's the way the company is treating the clients that are things that you all can work on without having to pour, thousands and millions of dollars into rebranding specifically. So let's talk real quick here on what is a brand specifically. So I literally just went on Google and was like, what is a brand? Ironically, one of the first ones came in. It was like a marking that is put on livestock to make sure that it marks your livestock. And I was like, well, yeah, that's like a cattle brand. But I don't think that's necessarily what we're talking about. But this is a pretty straightforward definition, right? A type of product manufactured by a particular company under a particular name. That didn't give me a whole lot when I was thinking about it, right? It's like, okay, yeah, I guess that's it. It's his definition. But Nicole, I'll throw this to you. When you think of the idea of brand in general, what are maybe trigger terms? What are logos that come to mind? What comes to mind for you when you start that conversation early on?
It's a tough one in a lot of ways, right? Because you can get to the color or not, but a brand generally is memorable. It's something that evokes a feeling of positivity, I guess, or negativity if you've not had a good experience. But it's usually all of the things combined, but results in this feeling you take away with you on how you want to interact with that company. And I don't know how many of you have ever done those online recognize the brand logo, because they're timeless in a lot of ways, right? You can look at Westinghouse, you look at the W and you know exactly what it is and what it stands for. And that's really, kind of for me, how I think about it is how do you get that emotion out of your customers and your employees and the people who interact with you?
That's a really interesting point too, how you talked about how I think a lot of times when we're thinking about branding, we're thinking about how is the client seeing us. You just threw in how are our employees seeing us and how are they being represented? What are they seeing in that too? And I think that's a really important point. Even for small business who may have 1, 2, 3 people, Is it representing you? Is it representing your values as a company? And so I love that you talked about how it starts way before the logo and the colors and those sort of things. You have to start asking some of those questions. So let's talk a little bit about kind of rebrand. I pulled some quotes here that I thought were interesting for different ways, talking about a brand as a whole, but then also talking about kind of rebranding and some of those sort of things. So these really back up a lot of what we said. Your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room, right? So what is that feeling that sticks with people? I always joke that from a marketing purpose, my wife is your best fan. If you make a fan of my wife, she will not shut up about your product, even if you don't ask about it. Like, you could not need house cleaners right now, but if she had a great house cleaning, you're going to know about it and you're going to talk about it. A brand helps with some of that stuff because it's establishing, those sort of things. The purpose of your brand is to represent your purpose. I think is a really, really fun, way to think about that. The last one I'm going to leave here is a quote kind of on the idea of a rebrand. So if you're looking at your logo, you're looking at your company going, man, something feels a little off and I'm not sure what it is. I need to dive back into this. I need to refocus, especially at the end of the year. What a great time to start thinking about this as we're launching into a new year, coming up on 2024, which is insane that we're already almost to 2024. My brain can't process that. But this idea from Dalton Dorn, a rebrand is an opportunity to honor a company's roots while positioning it for the future. So it's this idea of just kind of reevaluating, looking at where have we come from, and then starting to access some of those deeper paces there. So give us one quick question I want to ask you, Nicole, and then we'll get to some of the fun stuff and showing them some of the work that we have been doing here. What made us start asking this question at BombBomb? What made us start thinking, are we doing this right? Are we positioning ourselves right? Is our brand really focused in the right ways? Give us kind of the early conversations or where that came from initially.
Sure. So that was probably like Q1 of this year, where we were looking at a lot of things. So we have a new product that's been kind of in stealth mode that you'll be seeing some announcements on coming in the next, I think, week or two. And then we were looking at our strategy, to your point here, around our roots and then where we're headed in the future. And we have a huge loyal footprint in real estate, mortgage, a lot of, where the company grew up. But as we started to look at how do we expand and how are we going to be perceived in a wider market, it started to beg some questions that we wanted answers to around how does it resonate? The people who really like us versus the people who've never heard about us, and what does that mean? And just going through the beginning stages of, okay, how does that play? How would it help us with sales and pushing the product forward? Is this a key component or not? So it really was a piece of the puzzle as we look to grow and scale our organization around, is this still serving us the same way it was in the past? And is there an opportunity maybe to refine it, as you said on the first slide?
So part of this, and a question I'll throw your way, and I kind of understand the roots a little bit as well, we get tons of questions about our name as a company. BombBomb, right? I mean, you hear BombBomb and you don't necessarily think, oh, that's a video marketing company that allows you to send personal videos to people, right? So was that part of the equation as well, as kind of evaluating, is that, setting us up in the right ways for people that don't know us right now?
That's a great question, Kevin, and we had lots of conversations about that, because if you can imagine, having the word bomb in your name can be contentious for certain folks. And again, what we learned is, in the markets that we're in today, most people, we have the recognition, people know it, and it's usually met with, I love BombBomb, which is great. You exit the current verticals we're in, and it was usually like, what is that? What do you do? Interesting name. But there's some quirkiness to the name and some history to the name that we, as a company, decided that's not on the table right now. But what can be on the table is leaning into it and really making it more of how we talk about the company, and the quirkiness, which is also part of the internal culture that we just really wanted to own. And we figured, we didn't have to go that far as to change the name, because that can be risky. And especially a company of our size, not sure that was the right move. I mean, you guys have seen the Twitter to X renaming. I think it remains to be seen how successful that is or will be. And they certainly are, many times bigger than us. And and have the, I guess, the financial means, if you will, to really try and help push that forward. So yeah, we did. It was lots of discussion, and we ended up saying, the name is good. We're going to stick with it, and we're going to own it.
Well, just to back you up a little bit, I've already seen several chats that are saying, don't change the name, don't change the name. Lindsay also said, we also joke, don't say our name at the airport. That's a totally good thing. Or wear BombBomb swag when you're walking through the airport or traveling. Not always your best idea. But I think it's fun. And I think a couple of things that have stood out to me as I've had conversations with you about this is the history of it, right? The kind of fun, comical way that it really represents who we are as a culture and the people that represent the company. I also think it's interesting to go, when you say it to people that don't know us, they go, oh, that's interesting. What do you do? It automatically spurs questions for people, which is a good thing. It allows you to communicate and talk about it, versus you can see lots of other names that are very to the point and direct, and it may go, oh, they assume they know what that is because they can kind of tell the name. So I think there's a lot of fun things that, but everyone know we did explore that, we did talk about that, and BombBomb's not going anywhere right now. We're really excited to lean into this. So without further ado, I'm going to show you guys a quick, less than a minute video to kind of introduce our new brand, because we are really, really excited to share this with all of you. And we think you're going to be really excited. And I see a couple chats of what's the history of the name. I'll tell you that in just a second, because I think I know the story there. So I think this video is so funny because it really does play to our nature as a company, right? The jokes in it, the fun in it, that is what we wanted to represent. And the whole, dude, lighten up, those kind of things are just so perfect for it. But here is your first glimpse, maybe your second, if you've been on the website or hopped in, at the new BombBomb logo. And we do want to spend a little bit of time showing you some of the new things, discussing some of this. I'm seeing some awesome responses here. Don't take life too seriously. Love it. The bomb diggity. I will give you a little bit of context on the story, at least that I know of the origins of the name. So Connor McCluskey, who is still our CEO, 17 years in, I believe, something like that. When he came up with the idea for this video messaging, it was not around 17 years ago. And he was telling somebody about it and was just so bored with all the tech names, the boring names, all the things that people would come up. And they were like, man, I love that idea. That idea is the bomb.com. And if you know Connor, he is a very fun-loving, wild, loves these kind of fun terms, ideas. And he went, that's it. I love that. Unfortunately, the bomb.com was already taken. So he's like, well, I'll just do it twice. BombBomb. And that's kind of where it came from, as simple as that sounds. But it's really, really fun. It's just fun. And I think what's really interesting about this is I think our new logo really represents that in a lot of ways. So Nicole, I'll throw it to you just while this is up here before we kind of walk through some of the differences and changes here. What has stood out to you in this change? We obviously showed the old logo there for a sec, and now the new one is on the screen. What stands out to you with the new logo and what it represents?
It really went for showcasing putting video and email together, right? So you've got, with the play button and some of those things, it's a little bit more visually representative of what we do. And then there's a bunch with just the messaging itself. And I think you might get to this later on as well, but really coming at this from our view of our customers. And, they're not just people who are our users on the platform, but we really view this as a partnership, and how are we successful together, and how are we providing tools to our customers to help make them more successful, right? It's kind of a win-win. And I think with the the font and the messaging and the new logo. It really tries to convey that in a more updated way than we had in the past.
Yeah, I think it really plays in with what we were talking about of the name BombBomb gives some curiosity, so it creates that. But then how do we also visually represent, all right, here's a little glimpse into what we do with that logo, right? And so it's kind of playing, oh yeah, I can sort of see this is video with the play button. It gives some more kind of direct comparisons to that. Lisa, I love that you're already talking about how does this affect me with my usage as a client. We're going to definitely talk about how this affects you guys directly. But I do want to give a little bit more context into the process as you're thinking about your logo, your brand, the process that you can kind of go through and why this is important. So when we first started, I know you talked about, Nicole, we started asking questions. That's kind of where we started with this process. Did we do a lot of research around this? Did we do a lot of, I'll just leave it at that. Did we do a lot of research to kind of dissect, is this even worth spending the time on? Is that a good first step to start with?
It absolutely is. So I will tell you that, a lot of this can be art and science, but I would strongly lean on the science part and the data part. We went out and talked to a lot of our current customers that, we've known for a long time, love the brand, tried to elicit what did they like about it, what did they not like about it. And then we also went out to the customers, the potential customers were wanting to attract to the company, and had lots of conversations there as well around how did it resonate, again, what's working, what's not working. And we also talked to employees and did a survey there as well to get internal buy-in. So we did. There was lots of work with an agency that does a lot of market research, and then really trying to hone in on those areas that I may have mentioned before, where you look at is that emotional connection and how do people respond and how does it resonate, and you take all of that in. And then we did samplings of different logos. Like you got 3 or 4 that they got to take a look at and respond to with their feelings and what they liked about it, didn't like about it. And then that all gets synthesized, and effectively, that entire base of survey respondents was how we ended up with the logo you see here today.
That's awesome. And I think just to kind of reiterate to all of you, why is this stuff even important to be talking about as you're looking at your companies and starting to ask these questions for yourself? There's a lot of stats and a lot of data you can find around this. I picked out 3 that I thought were impactful as I was reading through them. That first one, 0.05 seconds for people to form an opinion about your website. That's important, right? They need to get to it and understand it as quickly as possible. So if you're looking at your business holistically and going, I don't know that this represents well. I've had friends who have started small businesses, and the first time I go on the website, I'm like, wow, you tried to do all of it right away, and it's overwhelming and it's confusing. So how do you kind of narrow down? 75% say transparent communication for brands has become more important after the pandemic. So this is taking that next step versus just logo, name, those sort of things, colors, and going, well, part of the way that we brand is how we're communicating, how we're treating our clients. 23% of you said that's what you think of when you think of branding, is how we're treated and communicated with. Obviously, that is agreed with here. And then 77% of consumers buy from brands who share the same values as them. For those of you that are salespeople, how are you conveying your values to the people that you're trying to sell to? That's really massively important. I think a lot of us go, well, especially as a salesperson, if I can get talking with people, I'm really good at what I do. I'm confident in what I do. What if you don't get that opportunity? These are those first steps. It's kind of like the cover to the book. I say that with subject lines on emails. If you don't get people actually into the email, doesn't matter how good your email is. If you don't get people to actually engage and schedule time with you, all of these branding pieces are going to fall in place to help you understand that a little bit more. So let me give you a quick tour of the new website. We're not going tab by tab, I promise you. I know you all will hop in here and look at it and learn and read what you want to find. But I just want to help make you a little bit more familiar and help you be the first to really kind of get a good understanding on this. So you can see turn emails into results with video messaging. Now, one thing I've already seen a handful of people comment on this is the font. The font is very different now than it used to be. And I know the first time I saw this, it was a little bit jarring just because I've been here for so long. I think I wasn't used to it as much. Do you have any context into why we went a little bit more playful with that font, how that was chosen? Were you part of those discussions as well, Nicole?
I was again. So it goes back to what you just said, Kevin, right? It's more playful, it's more approachable, right? The softer edges to it, kind of that little more of a bubble look to it, is really what we were going for. Is something that again turns into memorable. It's more inviting than the really crisp look we had before, and it resonated. Again, data is what drove this, right? When we did all of the research and we had people surveyed and what have you, this is where we ended up. And even though each of us may have an opinion around a logo and a font and a color, it doesn't really matter if it doesn't resonate with the market you're working with, right? Because to your slide, 2 slides or 1 slide ago, that split second or faster decision on does somebody want to stay on your site or they bounce off matters. And that's where data is your friend. And we certainly embrace that with this project.
Yeah. Well, and you'll be able to see it all over the website. I mean, there's a lot of changes. Of course, we're throwing data up there for anybody that's curious about those. One of the great things that I actually love for this as well is our use cases tab. If you are in any of these industries, we've really gone through and spent a lot of time with current users of our product on how they're winning, what data they're seeing, what responses they're seeing, and have built pages to help represent that. So if you're continuing to look for more information, spend some time here. I'm always going to throw out the resources tab because that's where I live. That's how I want to support you all, is give you the content you need to succeed really well in this. So our resources tab didn't go anywhere. It's still here. We just reorganized it and we made it look a little bit different. So do not hesitate to look at any of these free resources with our blogs, the webinars that you're on right now. We put all these recordings on here, our podcast. Make sure you utilize that. One thing I am going to scroll down a little ways here and touch on, because it really was one of the things that stood out to me the most with our new website, is not just the logo, not just the font, not just the visual changes, but the idea change, the refocusing of what do we bring to the table that competitors may not. And I think it's something really important for all of you to think about as you're evaluating your business as well, is what do I bring to the table that other people don't bring? And this sentence was integral for me in that. Gaining a partner, not just a platform. Talk to me about a little bit about that. Was that something that was really a focus for us in this kind of reestablishing this rebranding?
It was. And when I joined a year ago, one of the key things that stood out to me, honestly, was our people, how much they care about the customer. I've watched people go above and beyond trying to solve problems, and it didn't really show up that way on the website. It did in things like the webinars and the customer support area, where if you listen to calls, but it wasn't really, I think, portrayed this in this way on the site. So we went through and started talking about it, and it is part of a culture of how you think about your customers, or how customers think about you. Is, are we just a vendor, or are we actually a partner in their business and helping drive value? So I don't want to say it's a new era. It's really just putting a lens on what we were already doing as a company and really making sure that we're there to help drive success. And, it's just really the mentality this company has had since its inception. And we're just we're leaning into this and making it front and center.
Yeah, for those of you that have been with BombBomb for any amount of time, you've heard various forms of this with rehumanizing, human-centered communication. None of those things are going anywhere. Those are still very much core beliefs in what we believe, and why we want to encourage all of you to keep using these very personal, very simple videos. That is the power of this, is you are not just a company, you are now a person, and you are a person, and you can start to build that relationship, that connection, that trust, those sort of things there as well, which I think is just, it's really powerful. And so for us to live what we're preaching, I think is a really important thing as well, to expand on that. So I want to show you this all real fast here, just so you know, if you did see any updates on your mobile apps, on your phones, this is what the new icon is going to look like. I don't want any of you to be lost. I've talked with some people where their phone automatically updated it. Mine did not. So if you want this new one, you can, of course, remove the app, re-upload the app, or update your app, and you'll have these new things. But I do think it's important that we adjust to some of the conversation of how does this affect our clients now a little bit. And then after we have this conversation, for those of you out there, we are going to dive into some steps that you can start to think about if you're considering any moves like this in your business. First and foremost, I want to throw out there, visually in your accounts, you are not going to all of a sudden be really, really confused. I promise you. The UI of the product is not massively changing. What are you going to see? Are new logos in a lot of different places, right? You're not going to see the old logo, the old fonts. Those things are going to be slowly updating over time. But the mobile app itself, I just spent some time in it this morning. Overall, once you get through the sign-in process, you're going to be very, very familiar what it looks like right now. Not a lot is changing there. Same with the web app itself. If you spend a lot of time in the web app, it's not like all of a sudden the whole UI of the web app is completely different. It's not. We're going to talk in a minute here about some of the new updates and some of the new things that we're adding in for you and how you can use some of the BombBomb tools if you're making some of these changes. But I just wanted to alleviate some of those things that as of right now, you will be able to log in and you'll still be very, very familiar with the space other than the logo changes and some of those sort of things. But I do think that this brings a really fun, interesting conversation about that quote that I talked about earlier of allowing it to represent where you came from, the roots of your organization, as well as where you're headed. So was that a part of the conversation as we were doing this, is thinking about what are some of the changes that are coming up for our clients and how is that kind of wrapped into all of this, Nicole?
It is. I was trying to think how do I answer that question, Kevin?
It's a big question. I'm sorry. I just threw.
Yeah, it's like, where are you headed? And it is a big question, because if you look at how we view customers, how we want to be a partner in success, and then you've got, the world of AI coming and all of these things, and yet BombBomb here is the, human side of that communication, and really going. So it's the sort of the where we were and where we're going is this spirit of innovation. It's how the company got started, right? Connor had an idea and through grit and tenacity built it into what it is today. But there's so much more room for us to take video messaging into the future. Because even though this company is 17 years old, most people I talk to still do not know what this is, unless you're in particular industries. So it's clearly not the norm to use video messaging when you're communicating. So as we looked at that, we're like, okay, back to innovation. We got to beef up for the product and really make sure that we've got that cycle of voice of customer. I know you guys have all probably heard that talked about a lot in the recent years, but really funneling that in to make sure that we're providing the features and the functionality that's needed in the marketplace as video continues to be adopted. So, you look at things coming, virtual backgrounds, trimming, splicing, a lot of things we've been hearing for a long time. But more importantly is just also embracing how do you drive this forward is internal process to take what we're hearing from the market. And for the first time in a while, we actually have a whole year-long roadmap going into next year. It's very exciting. So yeah, I think if you look at the change and the refinement, it's also refining how we operate and how we get back to innovating and really making sure we're delivering.
Well, I think a perfect example of this, and let's jump in and show you something that's a little bit more tactical. Now, for those of you that this is the first webinar you've ever been on, this is a very unique webinar in the regards of we are spending a little bit more time talking about us and what we're doing because we want you to understand and not be surprised by these things. I know I've seen several chats of, are we going to talk through sales strategies and those sort of things? I'll be honest with you. This webinar is not necessarily about that as much. Keep your eyes open for other deep dive webinars because we do a lot of strategy, a lot of technical work on that. This is going to give you some work through as well of how you can use that. And one of the things I think that really speaks to what Nicole said there is the virtual background. She brought that up. 7 years ago, when I started here at BombBomb, virtual background was not something we were ever going to talk about, consider. It was not a thing back then. Then COVID hit. Then we started hopping on Zoom a lot more. Then we got more familiar with this personalized, whether it was asynchronous or synchronous video. And all of a sudden, virtual background started to become an expectation. I need to have access to that, right? I need to, for whatever reason, I don't want people to see my actual background here. So we jumped in and we did it. We've also heard feedback to the internal processing that Nicole just talked about. Once we launched virtual backgrounds, we were excited. We put a lot of work into that. Not everybody was thrilled with the quality of those at that time. They wanted them to be a little bit better. They wanted them to be up to standards that they were expecting. So I've literally am in my BombBomb web app. You can see it. Probably looks very familiar for those of you that have used it, besides our awesome new little logo up at the top here. But once you're in here, we now have changed what used to just be virtual backgrounds to a whole effects tab that you can click on. What's beautiful about this is a couple of things. One, I want to show you, I'm going to throw a virtual background up there. My background is not clean at all for virtual backgrounds. I have a lot of stuff going on behind me, and look how much crisper this is than what it used to be. There used to be just slight amounts of fuzziness and those sort of things. It's a much crisper product, and you actually can choose the quality of your virtual background right now, and I'll show you where to do that, depending on your computer and your processing speed and what it can handle. If all of a sudden the ultra high quality is too much for your computer, I'll show you where you can go to kind of dumb that down a little bit so that it's not working your computer too hard. So that's one massive improvement. The quality of the virtual backgrounds has gone up a lot. The other one, and I actually just saw a QA, I think it was Trent that asked about this, the brightness and can I do touch-ups and some various things to my video. You now have the ability to adjust some of these things. You can see touch-up appearance as a toggle. We now have color balance. We can actually zoom in a little bit. Now, I prefer, personally, if I'm being honest, to make some of these physical adjustments before I start recording rather than relying on the technology to do it. But guess what? Now you have these added tools. If you don't have access to new lights and fancy things to adjust the color balance and all of that, it's built into the system. This is one of those things that we heard from you, we listened to you, our new process is allowing us to put these things in place, and then our team is able to go on and start working back on it. Now, there are still very much best practices with virtual backgrounds. Kelsey, if you wouldn't mind grabbing some of those links that we had talked about. We've got great knowledge base articles and best practices around using virtual backgrounds. We also have a BombBomb Studios course, which is our on-demand learning center that we have here at BombBomb, around using virtual backgrounds. Because guess what? There are still hiccups. There are still things that can come into play. For example, if I'm using a virtual background like this, I don't want to be moving my hands a lot because it just is causing too much. It makes the technology have to work really hard. There's still things that you can do that will help you with those best practices. So I know Kelsey will grab some of those links and send some of that stuff in as well for you. But really excited to announce some of these changes. This also puts a little bit of a foundation in place for us to add some of these other pieces that Nicole talked about with potential splicing and potential editing things that we've heard from you all for a very long time. Know that those options are there. We also have a blur option now built into the system. So there's these pieces like this that are coming up because of, I'm not going to say the rebrand is the whole reason for these, but it's now putting a process in place where we can hear and listen to you guys even more and more. So that's a real tactical way that you all can start to see, oh, here's some changes that are happening, and here's things that are already happening with this process that are going to help me be more successful with my usage and more successful with my video as well. So I want to run through these real fast. Chris, I like yours of add some hair to my head. I don't know if our technology is quite there yet, but we'll work on it. I'll push that up the chain and see if I can see if I can get some things moving. That's a great one. Kelsey, thank you for sharing some of those links. I really appreciate that. I wanted to give you all some thoughts and some strategies because I like these to be focused on you all as much as I possibly can, even though this one's a little bit more of us talking about BombBomb and those things. Of what are some steps and what are some processes you can start to think about if you're considering making any of these changes. Now, first and foremost, you've heard Nicole talk about some of the backgrounds of all the things we have done to get to this point today, and it's a lot. Don't just go change your logo on a whim. One thing when we were having conversations this week that was brought up was that a lot of solopreneurs, people that are starting their own businesses, you have learned to trust your gut to a great deal. And I'm not sitting here saying don't do that. But slow down a little bit and take the time. Don't just launch into a new logo change because it feels like the new fun, cool thing to do. Really start to think back and take a step back. And first step on this is look at what your goals and strategy are, right? Identify your reasons for rebranding. And it's not just, oh, I haven't done it in a few years. That doesn't necessarily matter to McDonald's sake. I mean, McDonald's has had a relatively similar logo for a very long time. Have there been little modifications and edits? Sure. But guess what? When I drive by McDonald's with my kids and they see the yellow arches, they get excited and they start yelling, Dad, 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 can we go there? Because it's been the same for so long. They recognize that. So don't make change for change's sake. Start to think about your goals and your strategy and your values and those sort of things. We talked about what we did here with market research. This doesn't mean you have to hire a market research company to come in and interview thousands of people. Pick 5 people, go through your database, start asking questions. I think one of the easiest ways to do this is to give people an opportunity to give you feedback. Maybe it's as simple as I build a little form and I send that form out to a handful of people that I care about, right? And I can take that and start to get some research back on that. Maybe it's you really doing research on your own and starting to look at your demographic, your city, your geography in your area and going, what's changed in this since I established these things forever ago? Start asking those questions because you'll never know what that might bring out. Maybe it doesn't bring a rebrand at all, but it helps you rebrand in the way that you're focusing and communicating with your clients. That's one thing I want you all to know. A rebrand does not have to be a new logo and new colors. You can completely rebrand the way that you communicate and the way that you treat your clients. That can be a rebrand in a way. And it's not this massive launch and the massive amounts of effort that go into changing those things. So do the research. Start looking at your messaging and what is the value prop that you go. I think the ultimate place we have to start with this is, what do we care about? What are our values? I think I talked about this in a webinar a few months ago when we were talking about being a trusted advisor. Well, to be a trusted advisor, you have to know your values so that you can share those with the people that need them. That's what builds that connection, because we connect on those deeper values. So if you can start to define that for yourself, then you can start looking at, how do I craft the compelling messaging that conveys those values and those sort of elements. Then we start to look at our target audience. We start to look at new areas we want to get into. What is our niche? There's so many different ways that you can look at this, depending on what industry you're in, right? Maybe it's size of company, maybe it's geographic location, maybe it's contract size, ICP, age, industry. If you're in real estate, it could just be specific neighborhoods. I want to get into new neighborhoods in my area. Start looking at that. Who's moving into those? Start getting to know these people, because that will affect the way that you communicate. We're going to communicate very differently to a bunch of Gen Zers who are now going to be first-time home buyers versus people who are looking to sell their last home because they're 60 years old. That messaging needs to be really, really different in the way that we communicate and give our value prop across. So start to get to know your market. Of course, we're not going to ignore these things. You've got to be able to have your online presence, your social media, your content strategy, those sort of things. And I know that can feel really intimidating. I still even feel intimidated by thinking about, what is my content strategy on social media? Ultimately, I think what I want you to hear in this is, coming up at the end of the year, as we're jumping into the new year, it's so easy to go, I'm going to set a bunch of goals for next year that I'm going to hit. It's going to be the best year ever. And how often do we actually take the time to go, what should my goals be? What do I need them to be? What are the adjustments and the changes that I need to make that maybe didn't work out as well this year, or maybe did work out, that are going to propel us forward? Take that time to start to really map things out. I promise you, the reason that New Year's resolutions fall away so quickly is because we just write a few things on a plate and we're like, yeah, let's go do those things. When you start spending hours and hours and hours building those goals, they now start to become deeper in you, and you won't forget them. You're not going to drop them because you understand why they are really, really important. Number 6 here. I mean, I'm going to talk about this because this is what we do. This is our client relationships. You've got to really lean into those. Is this rebrand going to affect the existing relationships that you have? Nicole talked about this earlier with our name. We started asking questions about our name, and we realized, oh my gosh, there's actually a lot of people that love our name and find a lot of identity in that name. Do we want to let go of that, or do we want to lean into that, right? Start asking those sort of questions. Use this as an opportunity to engage with past clients. And then I even put that your communication style could be your central rebrand. Maybe that is the way that you're rebranding right now, is just adjusting your communication and those sort of things. Maybe that's leaning into video more in the next year because you're going, I got to build deeper relationships. I've got to connect more, in this time period. The last quick one I'll throw on here, and then we'll go over just a couple quick features, and then we're getting pretty close to time. So I'll double check our Q&A here, is always make sure you've got a way to measure success. This is, Nicole, you'll laugh. I've told you this before. I am not as much of a data person as I probably should be. I am an idea person, right? So I come up with these big ideas and I'm like, let's go. And everybody has to be like, Kevin, why are we doing this? What are we looking to affect? And then how are we going to measure if this is successful or not? Slow down a little bit and make sure you do that. And it could be a whole bunch of different things, but we need to have some sort of metric that we can look at from the beginning of the year to the end of the year to go, okay, I made a difference. I made a dent. These changes affected this. And sometimes you learn, I made some changes and they didn't. I went the wrong way. That's okay. Because you're measuring that, you have the ability to kind of stand that. And then I love this idea of continuously gathering feedback. We're not doing the research just to be like, great, I've got all the info I need and I'm off. We're always asking questions. We talked about this a few months ago. Make sure you are always listening to your clients. It doesn't matter what that means. If it's asking for reviews, if it's asking for feedback when you finish with a contract or you finish with a closing or whatever it may be, do that. Now, the key is you got to listen. Don't just ask them for feedback and ignore it. You got to listen to that feedback and actually be willing to make those changes. But I promise you, those will be the things that really affect and make a difference kind of long-term on that. I know that was a lot of information that I just flew through quickly. Nicole, was there anything that stood out to you that was in those steps that we went through that you found to be impactful?
I did. In fact, I was going to jump in because you just hit on it, is the listening part. Because, going through a change like this, or anytime you ask for information, you may not always hear what you want to hear or think you're going to hear. And that's where the data part was really helpful. Because, we all have an opinion and a gut feel and things we like or don't like. But at the end of the day, this is how you can keep moving in the right direction or course correct before you really go too far with something that's not working. So yeah, Kevin, you and I've talked about the use of data, but it can save you in a lot of areas, and we continue to use this in order to make decisions for ourselves.
Yeah. And for a company like BombBomb, where we have lots of clients and lots of data points, we can find all sorts of things. That doesn't mean you have to have a million points for those of you that don't have all of those systems and things, right? You can look at what are the main points I want to affect in my business. And how do I track that? How do I measure that? How do I know if those things are working? So don't overcomplicate it or be afraid because it sounds daunting, right? That I definitely can fall into that category from time to time. I'm like, well, I don't know what to measure. I'm going to go do the fun thing. No, stop, think about it, lean into it, and you'll find something. And maybe you'll find that isn't the right metric, but it can lead you in a lot of directions that can get you on the right path.
I would add to that, Kevin, this is definitely a situation where less is more. Right, because if you have too many metrics, all you have is a bunch of information. You don't really have any insight. So less is more.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. So listen and less is more. If you walk away with those two things, you're walking away with some good stuff. Okay, so in the vein of this idea of just talking about branding, rebranding, so on and so forth, I did want to share with you that whether you're new or you've been here for a while, there are some really, really neat ways that you can bring that content into BombBomb as well. Maybe you're not rebranding at all. You just didn't know about these. Or maybe you are making some changes. You're changing colors and those sort of things. The number one I wanted to show everybody is your video page. Now, the video page is basically the framework that goes around when somebody is watching your video. Now, you can see here, we've got the opportunity for them to react. They can like your video. They can reply. They can leave comments. But guess what else we can change? We can have our logo up here in the top left. I have a Remax one for this example, but you can upload your logo there. You can also change the colors. So this visit my website CTA button in the top right corner, guess what? I can change that color so that people can actually reflect and continue to build on my brand. Now, the great part is these are not hard to build. So I'm going to show you here. If I click on my name in the top right corner and just go to settings, it automatically takes me to my video page. And it's really, really a straightforward process to go through. I can scroll down and just interact with the content that I want to add. You can toggle on, toggle off. The one place I always recommend going first is actually this edit profile button, because your video page pulls a lot of content from your profile. It just automatically pulls that in, so you're not having to update it time and time again. So hop over to this edit profile button. The main tabs is, of course, the basics one. And then the organization one is another really good one. The basics, organization, social media are the three ones that I would spend a minute. Honestly, you'll have this done in 5 minutes. You know all of this information. But if you get it loaded in there and then go back to your edit, well, save it, of course, update my profile with the button at the bottom, and then you hop back over here, it automatically pulls in that content. The one thing I always like to say with the profile is make sure you're good with this being external facing. Don't put your personal cell phone number on there if you don't want people calling your cell phone. They will see it. So make sure that you have, the right address, your business lines, those sort of things. But this video page is accessible in any membership level, and you now have the ability to make sure that you're building that brand consistency with the videos that you're sending out to people. The other thing that I want to show you here is more for our higher level memberships that we have here at BombBomb is our email composer. We have a drag and drop email composer, and I'm not going to dive into it here because guess what? I did an entire webinar on this last month. If you want to learn about this, Kelsey, if you wouldn't mind grabbing that link and sharing that in the chat so people can review that. We've also got knowledge-based articles. We've got a lot of resources around this. But if you want to start building content that are really full emails, so you've got all of their branding and those sort of things that go around with CTA buttons and menus and all the wonderful pieces there, you can do that within BombBomb. It does require our current BombBomb Plus or higher subscription level. So keep that in mind. Again, with whatever your strategy is, know that those membership levels are there. One thing that we didn't touch on, and I do think I saw a chat on this, is as of right this second, Nicole, no membership levels are changing. That is not changing with this rebrand right now, right? We are keeping all the membership levels the same, correct?
It's correct.
Perfect. So none of you will see any changes or any surprises or any of that today. Don't stress about that sort of stuff. You'll have full access to all the same things that you have there. So I just wanted to make sure that I relayed that to all of you to let you know that guess what? You have access to bring this content in and you can use that. And then I did touch on the new and improved virtual background. We kind of showed you that a little bit earlier on. So I won't spend a whole lot of time on this one. Nicole, I'll throw it back to you. And this is a vague question, so take it wherever you want to. Kind of coming on the tail end of this, I know this is not done. I know it's not like a finish line that we cross and great, we never have to think about this again. What are some of the maybe moments or things that you kind of learned along the way in this process that are helpful to share with people? I know. Could I have made that more vague?
Wow. Okay. Where do you go? Right. It's there's a couple that come to mind. Honestly, and I've been through this a few times in various places I've worked, and what comes to mind is sticking to the fundamentals of do your research, do your homework, listen to the data, and then really, again, less is more, right? There was so much content and so much stuff here that we had to work through that it was forcing us to really take a hard look at a lot of things we were doing or not doing in the business. But yeah, lessons learned is get a project plan, work the plan, and the plan works for you kind of thing. And I know these are not like earth-shattering learnings, but they're reinforcements of things we all learn in our careers. And those fundamentals, if you stick to them, serve you well.
I think that's maybe more important than earth-shattering learnings. It's sometimes just these reinforcements of people that have recently gone through and going, oh yeah, that is important. I do need to lean into that. The more we have sat here and talked this morning, the more I'm feeling like for our clients, it's just slow down for a second, schedule time in to start asking these questions. There is not a right or wrong answer, and you have no idea where it might point you. It may point you to a big project like what we've gone through this year. It may point you to, you know what? I actually feel really good about where I'm headed. And I feel really focused on my values, that I'm reaching out to the right people, that I'm communicating effectively. And if you feel that confidence, that's a heck of a way to walk into a new year. Like that's really, really awesome. So don't go in with expectations of what the answers are going to be. Start asking the questions. Start leaning into some of those things that Nicole just shared that we've all heard before, but maybe have forgotten, because guess what? Especially as solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, small businesses, you guys wear a lot of hats, and it is hard to stay on top of all of these things all the time. My wife owns her own small business. I watch her do it every day, and the juggling is real. So take your time, do that, slow down a little bit. I am going to jump into some Q&As and see what questions we've got here for the last few minutes, but I did want to let you know, guess what? We're doing a deep dive again next month. Our December deep dive is going to be really, really kind of a new approach on how do we approach the holidays? How are we communicating with our database on the holidays? So if this is something that's interesting for you, if you've been to these before, we're going to talk way more strategy and technical on this one next month. But if you've ever been to our holiday ones before, it's going to be a little different. It's going to be a fun new approach to this of how do we really be impactful, not just for the holidays in general, but for this holiday season, because I firmly believe that this year feels different than any other year that I have felt in the last handful of years. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So we're going to kind of talk about the why, and then we're going to dive into it and really build you a nice blueprint of how you can really make your holiday communications effective, no matter what you celebrate, whether that's Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or whatever it is. You can use that as a way to connect with people more and more. So keep your eyes open for that coming up. That's going to be coming up next month. It'll be on the 13th, a little earlier next month than it usually is, just because of the holidays. We want to make sure you all have the time to do that. So let me hop in. I have seen a few Q&As and questions and things. Let me double check. Sarah, thank you for commenting on the flower sweater. I really appreciate that. I love my flowers. Every time I hop into a meeting at BombBomb, they're like, what are you wearing today? I'm like, flowers. It's more flowers. One of the questions here was from, and I don't know if this name is real, Charlie Brown. Charlie, if that is your real name, hats off to you. I love that. He's asking about the virtual backgrounds. If there are virtual backgrounds that aren't available in BombBomb, can I create my own? Absolutely. There is an upload option in our virtual background feature where you can build whatever image you want, whether it's logos or you go find a beautiful mountainscape or whatever you want it to be, and upload that image. Now, there are going to be certain file types that are accepted and not accepted. It's going to be your standard ones, your JPEGs, those sort of things. So don't save it as one of the fringe image file types. Make sure it's kind of one of the standard ones. Our system will let you know if we don't support that, and it will tell you what we do. So, you can kind of go through that process, but that's just one thing to think about as you're working through that. So hopefully, Charlie, that helps you out, but absolutely, you can bring your own virtual backgrounds in there. I'm looking through, it looks like Kelsey has been absolutely just keeping on top of the Q&A. So Kelsey, thank you all for your help. One other question I see here kind of at the end is, for a novice BombBomb user, is there one-on-one coaching or videos that you could spend an hour with me to show you? The best resource for this for you right now, Chris, on that is going to be BombBomb Studios. So if you log in, actually, I'll show you where to find this just to make it really, really easy on you. If you log into your BombBomb account, you click on your name in the top right here, like I have, and then you go down to BombBomb Studios right here. There will be a one-step because we use your BombBomb account sign-on to get you into this system. But this is our on-demand learning center. There is a plethora of information, and you'll see my face on here a lot. But I've really tried to build this depending on how you like to learn. The idea of this is you do it at your own time, at your own pace, whenever it makes sense for you. But if you scroll down here, we have feature-specific stuff. So if you're coming in here going, I want to learn about the virtual backgrounds, great. I forgot the link that Kelsey sent. You can come in and you can find that, and you can just scroll through. Maybe I want to look at the mobile app. Maybe I want to look at I didn't know there was in-video CTAs. You can look at all of that content here. We've also got some getting started stuff. If you are newer, Chris, you mentioned that you're a novice user. Maybe there's some hurdles that are holding you back. Maybe it's just, I need to get the foundation set for me and get my account set up. Great. Here's a course for that. Maybe it's, you know what? I'm a little nervous to do this. I promise you, you're not alone. That's why we have a course here around building your confidence on camera, doing some of those sort of things. Or we also have some best practices and things. So this is really going to be your best resource for hopping in and learning and kind of picking and choosing what you want to learn. There are these courses here in the simple video producer path are bigger and longer because they're more in depth. These ones down here that are feature specific, we're talking 15 minutes, 4 steps, and you're in and out of that. So that's a great resource for you. If you hop into your account, click on your name in that drop down, you'll be able to select BombBomb Studios from that. So let me see. I see, Michael, thank you for this, throw out there talking about, I would encourage you to invite their tech support. Reach out to our tech support team. We have, and I know I'm biased, the best customer care team. I get to work with these people on a daily basis. Not are they smart and are they good at what they do, They are the kindest and most wonderful people that are dying to help you. We don't want you to struggle through anything on your own. So please reach out to us. There's a chat within your app that you can go in and look up solutions and even chat directly in. You can send in a ticket to support@bombbomb.com if you've got a specific question. We want to make sure that you guys do not struggle alone and that we can help you through all of those sort of things. Kelsey's a perfect example of it, of somebody who has started on our customer support team, has moved up to our tier 2 level. So she's helping our big clients, our enterprise clients, and those sort of things. But we have an amazing team that is just dying to help you out, and they're just the best. So with that, 10:59, we couldn't be a whole lot more on the dot this month. So I'll take it because I usually go a little bit long. This is recorded. We will send you an email in the next, give us, a few days to a week, but we will send you that follow-up email with the recording if you want to review it. We will also upload the recording onto bombbomb.com/webinar. So if you ever want to go rewatch this one or watch any of our past webinars, there are a bunch on there of years and years and years of content. For example, the email composer one that I talked about that we did last month, that's on there. You can watch that. You can find that. With all of that being said, Nicole, thank you so much for being here and imparting your knowledge. You bring so much expertise. You bring so much experience. You've been in the grind with this process. And I think it's just a really, really awesome opportunity for them to get to meet more of the heart of what BombBomb is and get to hear your experience. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
For everybody out there, we appreciate you. We really, really care about you. Thank you for giving us some of your time today. We hope you really enjoy this rebrand and what it represents for you. We hope that you just dive in, learn about it, enjoy it. Do whatever you want to, but we have put a lot of work. Our team has worked so hard, and we are really, really proud to share this with you. So thank you for being part of the BombBomb family. We appreciate you, and have a great Thanksgiving if you celebrate that here in the States. If not, we will be back here December to talk about some of our holiday sending and building that blueprint. So I can't wait to see you then. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday.